At least 29 governors in the U.S. now saying refugees are not welcome.
President-elect Trump has promised reform, and he also said he will stop the Syrian refugee program and deport those already here.
Is potentially alienating 1.6 billion Muslims, is that a solution to the problem, or does that create more problems?
According to the UN Refugee Agency, the growth of the refugee population in the world has intensified between 2012 and 2015, mainly by the Syrian conflict, along with other conflicts in the region, such as in Iraq and Yemen, as well as in sub-Saharan Africa, including Burundi, the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, South Sudan, and Sudan. Jasmine Jama Elmi from Yemen, Jean-Paul Mugisha from Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Mariamu Abdullahi from the Central African Republic are refugees in Portland, Oregon, who shared with me some of their stories.
I'm grateful that America gave me a home, but I'm also disappointed that it's turning out to be a really not a place that I can call home anymore.
When I left the refugee camp, I thought that I was coming to a place where I will be accepted as a human being, not as a refugee.
But it's kind of upsetting when you think about it. Like things people are saying, like yesterday I was just at work. Somebody called me like a terrorist for no reason.
I came here when I was little. I left my country to come here.
Jasmine Jama Elmi was originally from Somalia, but moved to Yemen. At 8 years old, Jasmine and her family moved to the United States with the help of Catholic charities to their refugee resettlement program. Part of her transition to the United States, Jasmine says she was bullied, discriminated, and violated for her identity.
I was walking to my bus stop. I take the Tri-Man. They don't have a school bus. So I don't usually look behind me and stuff like that. So I just kept walking and walking and walking. And then I saw all I hear is yelling and stuff like that. And I turn around and I get my headscarf just snatched out of me. And I get pushed. And then this white guy just comes up in front of me. And it was why don't you go back to your terrorists, you blow up everything, you take our jobs and stuff like that. And I was just shocked, and my head was kind of bleeding because I had a pin in my head, and when he pulled my hair and with my headscarf, it scratched my head, and I was just I stood there without no movement, and he just came up to my face, violated me, just saying these horrible things, and I was okay, I don't know what's going on. I just stood there for a couple of moments, and he kept saying the most horrific, the most horrible thing you can ever hear a human being call to someone, a child that's an 18-year-old, he could be a parent, he could be someone who's has a child and stuff, and for him to call me those names and cuss me out and stuff like that, I just couldn't, I felt disgusted, and I was how can a human being discriminate another human being? You have to actually get to know the person in order to know their side of the story. They wrote a police report, yeah, but they didn't find the person, I was just shocked, and he just walked off, and I just picked up my scarf and I just wrapped it around my head. What can I do? He has his own opinion already. I don't want to put more negative thoughts about him, about me, And I wish people could know what we're facing, what we're going through. And people might say, oh, we understand you, we support you, but you won't actually know how to support unless you know what I'm feeling, the pain I'm holding in, and what I'm actually going through. So I would say I'm grateful that some people support, but it's just not the same, So.
Americans and Arab Americans alike need a wake-up call when dealing with the immediate problems of refugees and immigrants. Director of Communications and Marketing at Access, Rana Abbas Taylor in Dearborn, Michigan, shares her story of an Iraqi immigrant who came to her office one day after the FBI knocked on his door one afternoon. Here's her story.
His mother and father, who were visiting from Iraq, were green card holders. Had been at home, and the FBI had come by his house to ask some questions, looking for him. He wasn't there, and they left their business card with him. And this guy was just in a complete panic. He's like, my parents are really scared. They're panicking. I don't know what I should do. Should I call the FBI? I don't know how to handle this. He continued to call and come by our offices on a daily basis after his initial visit, wanting to know if anything had transpired. At one point, keep in mind, I was like fresh out of college. I mean, this was my first real full-time job. At one point, I grew a little impatient and had asked him to please exercise some patience because a lot was going on at the time. And he looked at me and he asked me one question. He said, have you ever lived outside of this country? Were you born here? And have you ever lived outside of this country? And I told him no, that I hadn't. And he was like, well, let me explain something to you. In my country, when the government knocks on your door, you may never see your house again. So you tell me how I'm supposed to explain to my parents to be patient.
Jean-Paul Mugisha grew up witnessing war conflicts such as the genocide in Rwanda in 1994. He was put in transit refugee camps where he could hear faint noises of bombs and gunshots.
And I still remember that because I was there too. I still remember the sounds of bombs and people screaming. And I still, sometimes I remember that because it's like a memory, a bad memory that I still have in my brain. I left Congo when I was really young, like I was 3 years old, then moved to a refugee camp. So for me, when I lived in a refugee camp, it was like 1 meal per day. And like life, like there was no running water, no electricity in the camp. But because I was a kid, I thought that was the life for everyone. I thought like everyone, that's how everyone lives. It's 1 meal per day. Like you have to walk more than 2 miles to get water. No electricity. You have to go to bed like at 8 p.m. and get up at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. And that's what I thought that was the life for everyone. But after I finished my 9th grade, I had to go to study outside the refugee camp. And when I went outside the refugee camp, that's where I was exposed to the outside world. So I saw like kids, like they were eating like 3 meals a day. They were like we were totally different. And that's where I realized that oh yeah, I'm a refugee. And this is how refugees are, like this is how everyone, like normal people live, and I live in this way. And so that was threatening to me, like the moment when I realized that the life that I live as a refugee is not the life that everyone lives.
From a nonprofit coffee organization seeking to promote the well-being of refugees in Berkeley, to the many volunteers who choose to spend their holidays away in refugee camps, this summer I learned about the support local communities are offering to newly resettled refugees in the San Francisco Bay Area. I spoke with Beverly Crawford, a professor of global conflict and the refugee crisis at UC Berkeley, about how Americans can break the fear they have of refugees and migrants, and this is what she told me.
One way to break the fear factor currently present in America today towards refugees is by developing personal relationships with refugees themselves.
Mariamu Abdullahi, an upcoming senior in Benson High School in Portland, Oregon, was a refugee from Central African Republic. She suffered many life-threatening experiences before coming to the United States, but even coming here felt like a threat to her.
Came out of nowhere, started shooting and burning the houses and just hitting whoever they see. I was left alone outside, and then there was this guy, I remember he was holding machetes and holding a fire in his hand. Me and him start running. He tried to cut me. Somehow I jumped inside the house and I was saved. Seeing people struggle around the world, you know, there's kids who want education but they can't, and I have the opportunity. The only thing I need to do is work hard, and so I can make somebody's life better, because somebody made my life better, so I should give back. We're here just like everyone else, you know, to get the help we need, to get the education and the better life, you know, like everywhere else. So why do they have to treat us like that? It's not okay to call a human being a terrorist because of the way they dress or because of what they believe in. And things that are happening to Muslim, all these girls, you know, it kind of hurt. Like the stabbing that happened by the mask, the girl, one of the girls I know her, she went through so much. Like she can't even go outside, you know, it just broke her. And there's no word to describe what is going on right now. It's just not fair. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's just not okay. And things with the president, him trying to say, oh, we're gonna kick the refugees, people who are the immigrants. I mean, what is the point of that? I'm Muslim. That could have been me, or my sister, or my mom, you know? And I go to all these places. I go to school, I take the max, I take the bus. I chose to dress like this. I chose to call myself a Muslim. And I'm proud to be a Muslim and be black and a woman.
Some of our refugees who just come don't really know what's happening politically, so they don't always know those things. They know their own lives, you know, and that story is a story of poverty in America. It's not just a refugee story. It's the story of like trying to find work and trying to take care of your family and make a better life for your family, regardless of where you come from. I think that is a huge struggle, and then you add to it this sentiment of not knowing if you're welcome and not knowing if this is a place you get to call home.
If there is a crisis of more refugees, that's where the news comes up and covers like things. But if there is like, let's say in a certain refugee camp there is like something really great that refugees did, no one is not going to cover that. Because we're not interested. But like if in one country there are like bombs or whatever, and then more refugees, there are more people that flee their country, now the media is going to cover.
Well, back home, even that we see white people, you know, different color. Nobody will call you out and be like, you're a terrorist because you're wearing a hijab, or yeah, because you're wearing abaya, or yeah, maybe there's a bomb under your dress. Here, like, just my skin color, people judge me because of that. We're not here to hurt anybody. Like, we're here just like everyone else.
There are a lot of people that want to speak out, that want to support and stuff. And I wish like that someday like we can have a voice and like someone that can like actually bring our community together.
There is a reason why they left, why they chose to come here to the United States. It's to live a better life. They're not here to burden anyone. They're here for safety and opportunities, something they can't find back in their country where there's bombing, famine, and oppressive regimes. With their admirable strength and resilience, they believe that there is always a light. And in the midst of all the media coverages, there are success stories out there.
We continue to pursue our policies of openness towards immigration and refugees without compromising security. And part of the reason we've been successful in doing that over the past year, welcoming close to 40,000 Syrian refugees, is because we have been coordinating with our allies, the United States and around the world, to demonstrate that security comes very seriously to us, and that's something that we continue to deal with.
We are here only because this country welcomed them in and taught them that to be an American is about something more than what we look like, or what our last names are, or how we worship. We were strangers once too.
I never thought that I will ever improve my future, because where I was living, I was a refugee and I was not allowed to work in my country. Back home, it was getting more unsecure, like more unsafe. So there was like no hope. So that moment, I was like, my life is going to change, and it changed for good.
I couldn't see myself, you know, when I was back in Africa, I did not know I would be in America. And look where I am right now. I'm in high school, I'm getting the education I want, I'm getting the things I want, and later on I'm gonna be a pediatric doctor. So.
And I do think America is a safe haven, honestly. And if it wasn't for America or like the Catholic charities, I don't think I would be like able to like even be here or like go to school and like achieve what I wanted to achieve. So